I'll pause this before the second part picks up. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I clapped. That's a new thing. New background, new scenery. You can
I
see my
see
weird collectibles in the corner, my
some books back
books in the
there.
background.
I don't cause
I was
too
just
much
kind of
attention.
jealous of us.
I have the
So
I have the same background. They're books though. I have my books back
the
there,
books.
some books,
All
and
right.
then
All right. There we go.
some current stuff is up there too, right? Huh? So
Elise's books are on the other side of it. We have some board games here. I
yeah,
would show you the spattering of our wedding stuff that still needs to be packed away, but that's awkward.
yeah. Well, actually, like my books, as you can see, they're color coded. You see the color coded books there. Yeah. So that's how they're
I kind of call
organized.
mine, yeah, that's very smart. I call mine disaster coded,
Mm.
so there's, in case of food emergencies, that's
Uh,
like recipe books, right? Those are, in case of boredom emergency, those are board games and other books.
yeah.
Household emergencies, so there's like how to,
Yes.
um, I think there's actually a zombie survival book down there. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't have
I
a,
like
yeah.
your organization a lot better.
Well, yeah.
Police's bookshelf is like crisp though. My bookshelf looks like,
Well,
it's a representation of yourself. It really is.
I mean, I didn't choose the colors. That was definitely a Corinne thing. If it was up to me, it'd be more like in line with, what they're about. What they're scattered all over the place. I just
Okay.
know
Okay.
now they're just what the book looks like. I know if the book is orange, it's in this general area. If it's
Yeah, there we go.
blue, if it's red, if it's neutral, it's more towards the bottom. Yeah. Anyway, so
All right. Well, anyways, welcome to the locker room. I'm one of
welcome.
your hosts, Jason Tran. This
Yeah.
is
The locker room. I'm Nasir McGill.
no. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is
What are your other hosts? Like
not our smoothest
Nas.
intro at all.
No,
That's okay. That's okay.
no. But
All right.
yeah, welcome back again. Another viewing, showing, listening, however you're uh
Viewing sounds
ingesting.
so scary. Yeah.
Yeah, however you're ingesting the information
Yeah.
or the show, then this is us. Uh yeah, here to talk about so basically we're here to talk about conflict, right?
We
Conflict
are here to talk about
today.
conflict today.
Yeah.
I can't stand my co-host, so I want to beat him up all the time.
Yeah.
Um, good thing.
That's why we do
No,
this
no, no.
on video now. We can't be in the same room
Exactly.
anymore. It's
He
on
was
site.
drinking too much water on site.
On
That's
site.
aggressive.
uh
Okay. Okay. So we want to have a discussion today about conflict. So, how we present ourselves first in a conflict, how we sometimes sacrifice ourselves in conflicts, um, as well as who we need to focus on in order to forgive a situation or even just to preserve yourself in a tricky situation here.
right. Well, you know, yeah, pretty much it, right? Like as and there's always so many ways that we resolve conflict. We fight, or we kind of retreat internally, right? And we sacrifice who we are, who ourselves, who are, and it's men, but it's people, period. But as men, especially, right? We sacrifice who we are just to get along, or we kind of fight consistently, all right? There isn't understanding really how to sacrifice, how to stand up for self, or we feel like we're being uh confrontational. Is like all these ways that we're looked at negatively for being or for trying to handle these conflicts. And like we talk about this tree, this idea of being this integrity of who we are, understanding who we are, um kind of being authentic to who we are, and how do we stand on that and still resolve conflicts without seeming like maybe we feel like we just seem like we're overly confrontational. Everybody wants to fight, or we feel like we have to back down in order for everybody to get along, right? So there's a middle ground somewhere. And how do we do that? That's always that's tricky.
it's a beautiful statement to make that it is the middle ground,
Yeah.
right? And I find like conflicts, usually there's at least two sides to it, right? Regardless if you're talking about like relationship between spouse and husband or familial when you're talking about parents and yourself, or say you're having trouble with your kids or it's between two friends, right? There's always kind of two sides to the situation,
Right.
right? And trying to figure out that point where we can almost meet in the middle or where we don't need to sacrifice either side's ideology is usually the best point of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Is that realistic? Not always.
No,
Right?
it definitely depends on the
Not always.
conflict. Yeah.
100%, right?
You know.
But at the end of the day, like I think something I've been kind of preaching a lot in the past few weeks. I don't know why. Just something to specifically focus on um is that in any situation, right? Regardless if it's me talking to you, Nas, or myself talking to another friend, or myself talking to even my lovely wife, right? We can't control what the other person's thinking, being, behaving, whatever it may be, right? That's completely out of control. We don't realistically have full access to what they're thinking about at the time,
Right.
or who what's happened throughout the day or what they've been thinking about throughout the day or their history in their past or whatnot, right? But we can control a few different situations in the wheelhouse. Right? One of them, and the most important one, I feel like, is yourself.
Right.
And not control as in like you have to repress your emotions, right? That's not healthy. Fully. Not the best situation,
Right.
right? But being honest and true to yourself and holding that first and foremost in a conflict is the best way to get an honest answer and an honest resolution, right?
Right. Right. I mean, ideally, like you said, not without not pushing down those emotions, but accepting those emotions that you are feeling and being able to communicate those is as good as you can or as well as possible, right? So, to the other person, entering that space of conflict or with that other person with those emotions intact, not repressed, but also not out of control. Just being able to kind of be that middle ground again, and that in that space where you can communicate that, and that is still important because that's the thing. I feel like we have these emotions, especially as men. We feel like our emotions aren't important, so um, we just
Emotions are valid and
yes.
they do a lot for us.
Exactly. But we end up dismissing them, and that's where it's like it goes into this logic. Whereas, don't get me wrong, like I feel like logic is important, but logic doesn't express emotions well. So if you're communicating an emotion and you want to be understood, that emotion will never be understood if you resort to logic. You know what I'm saying? Like it just won't. Like it'll make sense. What you're saying will make sense, but they won't understand. And then then we sit there and be like, well, nobody really is interested in what I feel like. Like, no, nobody's just really, they just keep hearing this logical explanation, which makes sense.
We
But
we've talked about it before, right? About the analogy of the elephant and the rider, right? I think
yeah,
we
yeah,
talk about this a lot, right? But just to kind of go over what the elephant and the rider is it's a discussion point on how to navigate um, actual conflict with two entities, right? So when you're talking to someone, you could think of them as you're having a discussion with the elephant and the rider. The elephant is this massive, like 10-ton creature that's romping, stomping pig iron that'll beat the shit out of you if you don't treat it right, right? The rider is someone who you would think is in control of the elephant, right? And in this analogy, the elephant is the emotions, the history, the connection points that are way heavier on the weighting of what's important in the conversation.
right,
The rider is the logic, the reason, the uh, points of not what was it points of objectiveness,
right,
right? Where they're the hard facts. Right? If you only talk to the rider, yes, he can sometimes pull around that elephant a little bit, but it's a small rider compared to a big elephant, right?
right,
Most likely, what's going to happen is that elephant is going to trample whoever you're talking to, right?
Exactly.
So if you have a conflict, if you're having a discussion with someone, a moment of argument or a discourse, right? You have to address the elephant in the room. Double analogy. What's up? But
Also,
you have to address.
also
Oh
though,
yeah, go.
like I just want to touch on what you were saying about objectivity. I think one of the big steps is understanding that when you're in this,
Yeah,
feel
sorry. Started the music by accident.
okay.
I had no idea that did that.
uh,
Whoa.
but when you're starting this and you're going into this conflict or this emotional conflict, or especially if there's emotions involved, the first step is understand it is not objective. It's not objective. Like it's a subjective argument. And it's going to be, and accepting that first and foremost, right? It's not about, because objectively you're maybe like, well, somebody's objectively right or wrong, but it's not objective. It's subjective. In this, I'm feel wronged. You might not have actually done anything to make me purposely done anything to make me feel wronged. And it might, if we looked at it objectively, you might be okay. But it doesn't
This is
change the
why
fact that
when you're
subjectively,
yep,
yeah, I feel wrong.
yeah, this is why when you're having an argument, if you just tell the facts to your significant other, you're gonna get your ass beat.
Yeah, it don't mean that.
Said and done, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't work. You have to
And
address their elephant, they have to address your elephant,
exactly.
right? Your emotions, your history, what you feel like, what they feel like. But the hardest thing is trying to find that common language between your elephant versus
Mm.
their elephant, right?
And another part of that, as we talk about this tree, is standing with true to yourself too. I want to talk about conflict when we talk about like parental conflict. It's an easy one. I mean, spousal too, but parental one for me because it's like I have like siblings with my father, and how we handle our relationships with him is like a perfect example. How I handle my relationship with them versus how they handle their relationship with them. Um, for a long time, ours was very, me and his was very volatile. We fought a lot because we couldn't. It was with him, we couldn't address anything, so we couldn't address history, which was messed up. But we couldn't touch it, right? And if we did, we
Yeah.
had to pretend like it wasn't, which means we had to swallow it in order to maintain the relationship. And of course, as long as you're swallowing that, they're beating you up on the inside because you can't bring it out. And every time something kind of comes close to it, you're not allowed to say it. So eventually it blows up. Right. Now our relationship has changed over the years to where like I just stood up for myself and what I believed in, what I deserved, stayed true to me. And it was like, if we're gonna have a relationship moving forward, you know, we gotta make I have to be able to make to stay true to me, and we have to be able to hold each other accountable. I have to be able to hold you accountable. That's the only way it works. That led to us not talking for a long time. But then when we did talk, it led to us not talking to years.
That little like whisper segue. We didn't talk at all.
I mean, after I
Oh
said
yeah,
that, after I said that, that's what it was going to be. I was like, I'm willing to have a relationship. I mean, the honest truth is, it did not change overnight. He hung up the phone. He said, yeah, that sounds good. And then I didn't talk to him for years. He never called me back. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yep,
Didn't have a conversation for
yep.
years. And then when we finally did, I stood to it. Like, look, if we're going to talk, this is how it's going to be. And now, even though there's a lot of negative history, we're able to address it and talk about it and just bring it to the forefront. This is how it was. Like, um, and hold them accountable to that, but also be able to build on something moving forward. Now we're able to build on a structure or on a foundation that is based in, reality, truth, things that happen, even if there's different points of views, you know, um, we're able to still move forward, and I'm able to like actually enjoy the relationship to a bit. Doesn't mean does he piss me off? Of course. Do I always like? Hell no. Like most of the time, I'm like, man, tripping. Like, because he's still growing, he's still learning. So what I mean, I had to, put him in his place a little bit sometimes, but it's the best relationship we've had because I don't have to adjust who I am. I don't have to
Yep.
hide anything that hurt me. I don't have to hold anything back or repress anything in order to maintain the relationship. My siblings, on the other hand, are still in that space. And I still tell them, like, and they'll tell me, I have these arguments to this day. they don't want to say, "Oh, he doesn't want to hear the things he did to me, or else it might hurt his feelings. I might as well, I just hold on to it." But they're still in that volatile cycle of repression, blowing up.
Yes.
Then there's this big space. Then they come back because they're trying to build a relationship again, and then they build the relationship down that same path of repression, and it's just gonna blow up again in that same cycle. And I keep telling them, same thing. Like,
Well, you put a cap on a pop bottle, right? And
yeah,
that is gonna explode at some given point, right? And it all it takes is a trigger, right? In the
yeah,
pop ball's case, you drop a Mentos in, but a lot of times it's just one triggering event. It could be something related to it, right? Trauma is a massive example of it, where you never really know what your trigger is going to be. A
mhm,
traumatic event is something that is so nebulous, right? There's so many reference points and little checkpoints in a person's life that it can just affect without even knowing it, right? It could be anything from sound to a gesture to maybe like the smallest of noise, right?
right,
That might trigger something, right? But once you start repressing things, those triggers don't get repressed. The
right,
only thing that's repressed and stored is that kinetic energy of anxiety and um, honestly, like the ball of emotion, right?
yeah. And then there's nowhere for it to go but out, and it explodes and it
Exactly.
turns. But that's the thing. And
But
I've
yep,
done 'em, we're
and
all under the same umbrella. There's under the same thing. Like, I can't do it for you, and that's the thing for you. You can't confront anybody for you. You have to be true to you in that relationship. And honestly, that's where it goes. If we talk about that conflict, and when people have thoughts on whether they have to compromise or they have to um hold back or repress in order to maintain a relationship, I always say, like, at the end of the day, the value is none. It's zero. It doesn't matter. Like, if you have to repress it to maintain the relationship, then there is no relationship. The reality is once
sacrifice at that point.
exactly, and we know we talk about sacrifice, and that we're not meant to do that, right? Like, at the end of the day, there is no relationship there. And if you being true to yourself and how you feel ends the relationship, then so be it. But there's so much value in the relationships with people who accept that truth and are able to handle that truth and are able to share their own truth with you back and forth. Now that's a real relationship. And I feel like the majority of us, and not a lot, not the majority, many people don't even know what that it feels like because they haven't allowed themselves to open up and be vulnerable and go into that. But then they don't, and because of that, they don't really, it doesn't matter how good you are, they don't truly know how to hold that space for others either. Because if you can't do it or enter in that yourself, then how can you really know how to hold that for other people, hold that space here for other people, right? And it's unfortunate.
I had a discussion this weekend about actually kind of that, right? And it was a talk with my friend group about uh, what friendship means to me. I know we're kind of wandering away from conflict a little bit, but
Mhm.
it's related. But what conflict means, or what friendship means to me, is I have found a group of individuals who aren't one afraid to challenge my, who I'm not afraid of allowing to challenge my thoughts. Also, allow me to have my honest self in these discussions.
Right.
I'm okay to open up and go a little bit deeper, right? And the big thing is that repression factor. People think it's like, oh, I have a cap and that's about it. No, there's depth, right? There's different markers down, right? For us, for example, me and you, Nas,
Mhm.
our discussions get pretty deep, right? We get pretty deep down into those nitty gritties
Right.
on and off camera, of course. Maybe one more so than others.
Right.
Uh, but we have ability to just, if we hit a hard conversation topic or anything like that, can take that next step down.
Right.
We can be like, hey, I'm going to be uncomfortable and this might trigger some events. There might be some triggers in the discussion, but let's dig a little deeper because I have a safe zone, a safe house where I am able to do so.
Right. Right.
And yes, it spurs conflict and arguments and stuff like that in friend groups. But if you are able to mix and match and actually come together to also like, hey, both sides agree that it's a hard conversation or a hard point, very healing.
Right. Yeah.
Conflicts aren't necessarily the evil thing that people always picture them to be, but conflict is something that promotes growth, right?
Exactly.
Conflicts allows our is almost like the fertilizer for our tree to build on,
Right.
right?
So it's that
But at the same time, two-sided coin, right?
exactly. So it's that avoidance of conflict that actually hinders most people's growth and relationship growth. It hinders relationship growth, right? If we try to avoid those conflicts and avoid that potential argument or whatever it may be, then we're avoiding potential opportunities for growth, right? Opportunities for change, for to evolve and to consider the other person's point of view. Now, there can be the extreme of that where people go too far, where people just chasing conflict because they just want to fight, and that's different, right? Like that's the side.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they just want to fight, so they're looking for everything, and that's not what we're talking about, right? But it's about being honest, and if that honesty uh actually is going to invoke a conflict, then so be it. It's necessary in order to grow or to find out if this is a dead end. That's just a relationship. It
This
might
is
be. It might
100%.
be a time to
100%.
turn around, right? Like this ain't gonna work, but you'll know. And you extend that relationship with people that you don't. That's why people sit around here and people they don't even like, cause they just like
100%, right?
they just
They just
extend
let
it.
it stew and brew.
Yeah, trying to be nice. Like, trying to be nice. Oh, he says all these things, but I'm not going to confront him. Then why are you hanging around? Just confront him. It might blow up and end that
Well,
relationship like it's meant to.
I think this is the biggest thing too, is like we kind of just talked a big time about talking to people's elephants, but on that same note, you should be able to talk to your own elephant as your own rider, your
Yeah.
emotional side, and understand how you express emotions, right? Because, like you said, some people don't have the ability, haven't had this opportunity to learn how to express their emotions properly. So instead of resorting to just expressing, hey, I'm feeling upset, they blow up like a bomb,
Right. Yep.
right? They detonate because they haven't had the tools to access that ability to process the emotion.
Right.
I said process really weird there, and that made me
Process.
really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Process.
The emphasis.
That was whoa. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Felt like I was like
That was aggressive.
something took me over there for a second. I don't know what happened.
Process that information
Yeah,
well.
process the emotions. I
uh,
felt my neck vessel pop a little bit there.
but that's
But yeah,
it's true though.
it's true,
You
right?
know.
You should be able to know how to handle inner conflict, right? Inner conflict allows you to help with conflicts outside of your circle or outside of your comfort zone, right?
Right.
And kind of nerdy side again. Gonna flip the switch here. But beautiful, beautiful show, Avatar: Last Airbender. Talked about this before,
Hmm.
right? They're actually just about to come up with a movie coming up here. Bunch of stuff happened, got leaked by accident. They fixed it, totally okay. But big character, Uncle Iroh,
Hmm.
right? He's this mentor figure for one of the main um, antagonists. Later on, not so much, but he has a big thing where he's guiding this individual through this inner conflict, right? He is hunting, sorry, it's so nerdy, but he's hunting down the avatar, right? The savior of humanity and all that jazz.
Right.
But he doesn't really have a reason why he's doing it. The only reason he can come up was his dad told him so. Pretty much.
Okay.
Burned him in the face, whatever. Really dark. Kid show. But really kind of this figure of Uncle Iroh becomes this guiding light for this other character Zuko, in that he helps navigate the conflicts outside of his inner self, right? His conflict with the Avatar, his conflict with people they meet on their journey, his conflict between Uncle Iroh and and Zuko, right?
Hmm.
Um, but the big thing that he's there for, and that he reiterates and talks about, is the most challenging, most important conflict that you will ever have to resolve is with yourself.
Hmm.
The two sides, right? And in this case, it was like the yin and the yang kind of side of things, right? His evil self versus his good self. We are human, so there's a lot more gray in between
Hmm.
that black and white picture, of course. But if we can address our inner conflicts, right? Talk to yourself, tell you, and have conversation about like why I'm having this emotional outburst or why I'm feeling angry or sad or why our conversations triggering some emotion or no emotion at all, right? Triggering something, right? You can then use those skills from just talking to yourself, talking to your inner self to then help heal other relationships
Right.
or navigate other relationships.
Well, you can almost go so far as to say, like you said, the most important that the only true conflict
Is yourself.
is inner conflict, right? Nothing else really exists. And I mean, if you really think about it, you go into it, right? Like any external conflict is more of a manifestation of whatever internal conflict that you already have, right? At the
100%.
end of the day.
What a segue to what we said at the start. What a segue. Look at that loop through,
Yeah. I
right?
mean,
That tie-in about that realistically you don't know what other people are going through,
exactly.
right? And what they have, but what you do have control of is yourself.
Yep. Yourself, what you're going through, what you believe, what you think, and what you feel, right?
Yeah, okay.
So, but it's true though, at the end of the day, that's the only real conflict anyway. So most of the time, and even if and we look at it, and I try to look at it in those things in life, it's like if I'm having this conflict with a person, and what does it say about me? Right? Like if there's something that's being uh drug up or dredged up from my interaction from a person, then what is that? What is going on inside of me? What's happening with me? Why is that happening? Um, and there's always something there, right? If we're honest with ourselves, is usually, I mean, nobody else can really, if I always say, like, if there's something that you 100% like, what's one thing you 100% believe and know about yourself to be true? That's positive, for example. What's one thing for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Uh, one thing that I know to be true about
Mhm.
myself, is that I laugh at really uncomfortable situations.
Okay. But
Sorry,
like,
that was really cheesy.
but like a
Um,
quality, what's a quality of yours? Like,
Equality.
let's say
Um,
intelligence or anything like that, like
yeah,
something you know to be
my
true.
my quality is that I'm a thinker. I
You're a
think I
thinker,
like to think.
right? You like to think. Do you believe you're stupid?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, really,
I'm
like,
joking. I'm joking.
basically, like,
Really,
do you
realistically,
honestly?
no. I
No,
don't think I'm stupid.
at
Right?
all, right? Like, do
Uh,
you consider it?
no, no,
No,
or
right? So,
no.
okay, so so we'll use that one, right? So, for example, so if somebody were to just be like, "Oh, Jason's a idiot. He's stupid," does that even make you mad? Really? Because you know 100%. There's no conflict there with you. I'm
Nope.
not stupid. Like it's not. Well, people, but then there's a lot of people call stupid. They'll go on a defensive trip. No, I'm not. Blah 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 blah. Why? Because why did it trigger them? Because there's conflict, right? Inside of them. It had nothing to do with the conflict externally.
There's
It's the
like that
internal
that
one.
personal insecurity of it,
Exactly.
right? That
And that's
adds
what they're
on.
fighting, right? And so ultimately, it's the
That's what
internal
it boils down to,
side, right? It
right?
boils down to those things. And that's what I'm saying. Like even with the now you're going to have external conflict. What we call conflict or healthy conflict is separate from that internal insecurity. Doesn't mean you don't have any internal insecurities, but if you do, you're able to share possibly where that's coming from. And that's a healthy
And you're
conflict.
able to 100%, if you've had that self-talk about why that makes you insecure or why that makes you uncomfortable, you can ask for help by being vulnerable, right?
Right,
That
right,
once again, it's that finding the self to allow others to access
right.
your door. Why am I putting emphasis on weird words?
Access.
Access.
I don't know.
That's what is going on. Anyways, anyways,
Certain
um,
syllables.
syllables.
Yeah.
Um, but like the biggest thing is that like when you tie it back to masculinity, right, and looking at what masculinity looks like in the media right now, right? When you look at those figures who are the cigar smoking,
Mhm.
gorilla neck throwing kind of individuals, right? When you look really listen to what their media presentation, oh my goodness, like I need to. I'll just roll with it. I'll just
Yeah,
say words with them syllables and just play with it.
right.
Um, But when you look at these individuals in media, you start noticing something is they are pushing really hard on deep-seated masculine insecurities, right?
Hmm.
Saying like about strength, about crying, about vulnerability, about this stuff, right? Individuals say like, "Oh, it's weak to cry. You need to go lift a bajillion pounds at the gym. You have to do this, do that in order to be a man. You have to fight battles. You have
Right.
to, I don't know, shoot guns, whatever it may be, right?" But when you really break it down, they are just picking at people's insecurities that they haven't had a discussion about, right? Why is it okay to cry? Why is it not okay to cry? Why is strength so important to individuals, physical strength, rather than putting emotional strength and self strength first, right?
Hmm.
Spiritual strength and the ability to actually process who you are in this world, to
Yeah.
understand your foundation and your flooring, not spiritual as in religious, but
Right.
who you are.
Right.
That is something that you don't hear very often in media, but rather the advocacy for physical strength over the weaker others.
Right.
And that's a dangerous scape.
It is, because it doesn't lead you to anywhere but destruction at the end of the day. Like if you rely on physical strength over others, like there's billions of people you're going to run into somebody who's going to end that end that streak. It's it's just
Yep.
going to happen.
Very quickly.
You know,
Right?
like it's just going to happen, right? At the end of the day, what we have is and the importance of that, I mean, physically take care of yourself, of course, but if that shouldn't be your goal or your what you bring into uh intimidation or anything like that. The thing that's on my mind when you talk about it, I don't know. I'm gonna talk through this because uh, it just keeps popping in my as you were talking. Rocky, all right? Rocky movies,
Yeah,
right?
Rocky.
Everything's
Oh,
tough. Boxing, I can take it all. But the true reason in the heart of the Rocky movies are
yep.
the times where he's vulnerable about what he's feeling, about
Oh,
what he needs.
that,
What is
that,
that is that's the
that is
legitimacy of the
Rocky,
movie.
right?
That's Rocky, right? And no matter how
You
much
see
of
the
it,
hardship.
yeah, no matter how many
Yep.
workout montages he goes through, you know what I'm saying? Like the hard part is the emotional part that he goes through, the emotional things that he has to come to terms with, the feelings that he's having. And he has to come to terms with those in order to move forward. But he has to accept them every time. And every movie is always a point where he has to accept them. It's like the one that's can turn into 1,000 memes. There is no tomorrow. Where him and Apollo, right? They're training together. I'll do it tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, he has to make I'm scared. He's scared of
Yep.
what's his name? Pity the fool, Mr.
Yep.
T.
Mr.
Yeah,
T.
he's
Yeah.
scared, right? He's scared. And at the end of the day, he has to admit he's scared. He has to face the fact that he's scared in order to overcome that mountain that he's built for himself. And but it's always that confrontation of that internal self that allows him to then externally beat the enemy, right? But he has to always defeat that internal enemy first.
I think that's what makes Creed such a like foundational spin-off for our generation,
Yeah.
right? Is like B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler captured that essence of Rocky of not being a fighting movie or boxing movie or sport movie, but a movie about an individual reflecting on themselves in order to grow. And
Exactly.
such a like a scene that just sticks in my brain and honestly set me onto this trajectory is the moment right when Rocky and Creed start training together, right?
Hmm.
Adonis is kind of this young, cocky, kind of suave guy as Michael B. Jordan is, right? But there's a moment where Rocky just sets them
Academy
up in front of the
Award
mirror.
winning Michael B. Jordan.
Ac-
Now we got to throw that out
Academy
there.
Award winning Sinners, great movie,
It is.
amazing. Put that plug in,
Yeah, yeah.
so good. I could talk a million years about Sinners
Oh
actually,
yeah,
but
definitely. Okay, maybe we'll devote
anyways, other movie, other
a podcast show to
oh,
Sinners itself. Maybe we'll do that
100%. Let's do
episode.
it. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
continue. All right.
Um, anyways, continuing. So Adonis is in front of the mirror. Rocky's coaching you on how to shadow box, right?
Mhm.
He's shadow boxing from the mirror. Right? I don't know why I'm shadow boxing alone, but it feels right. Right.
Just
It's
do
kind
it.
of weird that I'm just doing it alone, but yeah, so he's
I'm not
shadow
gonna
boxing.
shadow box
Okay,
to
okay,
your
okay. That's
story.
okay.
Like, hey, come on.
I can't stop.
All right.
I'm stuck here. So he's shadow boxing
Mhm.
to himself, and Rocky just looks in the mirror. Is like the hardest battle and the only like opponent that you'll ever truly face is the man on the other side.
Right. Right.
I feel like I have to keep on doing this until listening to the story now, but he's the only person that you have to truly fight, and he believes that in the gym, inside the ring, and outside, right? And it's
Right.
true, right? Your conflicts with other people, they are rarely because someone else applied any kind of actual issue or fire underneath your ass. It's they had a little bit of a trigger that then lit some kind of insecurity in yourself that you need to learn and develop and grow in
Right.
order to overcome that opponent, right? The fight's
Exactly.
never against the person on the other side unless you're looking in the mirror.
It's always you, right? It's at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's always you. And there's very few, and that's what I say, even with that word conflict, there's very few, like you're saying, there's very few instances where you're actually put into conflict with another person. Like it's rare. Like we call conflict anytime we brush up against somebody and our ideas are a little bit different. We call it conflict. But like you said, those are all examples of conflict of self. There's like very few where you're actually put up against, okay, this person might be trying to end my life for whatever reason. Like real conflict that doesn't happen as often in people's lives as people think, as we talk about. All right. And that's actual conflict where it might not be a message to you internally other than survive. That's it. Like, cause something dangerous is happening right now. Um, but in reality, these things that we call conflict or attribute the word conflict to are just projections, like I said, of our internal conflict, really, and their chances to address them externally so that we can face them internally, really. And if we again get objective instead of subjective and try to remove ourselves from this external conflict, then removes ourselves from the chance to heal internally, because now we separated. It has nothing to do with me. This is an external thing. And the reality is, man, it always does. It always has something to do with you. If it bothers you in any way, shape, or form, there's a reason internally that it does. So if you're willing
And
to
we
face
need
that, you know, then you get a chance.
and we need to have that conversation of why it affects us.
Right.
Why is it affecting me?
Hmm.
And in the case for
I need to know I
like having
matter,
a
that I
yeah,
wasn't a
yeah,
mistake.
well,
Well,
no,
yeah,
damn.
that
Yeah,
was
that's true.
well,
Oh,
that
yeah, that was good.
that was from
That's good.
that was
Yeah.
from Creed, though. That was from Creed. I
Yeah.
mean, that is true,
And
but
then
that
he's
was Creed.
just on yeah, yeah,
That was from
yeah.
Creed. That was one of his internal
Uh,
things, right? He wasn't a mistake, that he mattered. Anyway, yeah.
nope. And that's when he did a self-discovery in the fight,
Yes.
right? He was no longer fighting the other man, he was fighting himself,
Right.
right? And that as soon as he could accept and overcome that portion, he won the fight.
Thanks.
But yeah.
But I mean,
Oh,
anyway.
um,
But yeah.
but
Right.
no, I thought you just said that, and it didn't quite clue in time. You were quoting Creed.
Uh-huh.
It took a second, and I was like, "Yeah, dude. Yeah, okay, okay, yeah,
Go
okay,
deep.
yeah, yeah,
I need to
yeah,
know about.
yeah,
But
yeah.
at the end of the
We're
day,
going deep."
but really, okay, even touching on that, like externally, things like that, and I'm not gonna say that I know for a fact that that has been an internal conflict of mine before too, like, and probably still does come up because of, just how I grew up, right? Like at the end of the day, that has definitely been part of own growth, and that definitely comes up when, and that's something that I have to be honest with myself about. Like sometimes, what is really bothering me here, right? Like, is it the situation? And 9 times out of 10, if you really take that honest step back and like 9 times in, it's not the situation that's bothering you. It's something that's triggered inside of you that is just brought up by the situation. That's bringing the emotional baggage with it, and the emotional vitriol or heaviness to it is usually something internal. Now, there might be an actual thing that's happening here, but the heavy emotional part usually has nothing to do with the actual situation, right? And it's
It's just something that unzips that bag a little bit, right?
yeah,
That baggage, right? It just opens it up a little bit. But if you don't have the ability to access the emotion, it's gonna overflow out, right?
all the
There's
time.
no stop that tidal wave, right? But if you can use like your emotional comprehension, your ability to access emotions freely and describe them, right? Of saying, "Hey, I feel upset because of this situation, and this is causing me to do this." Wow,
Right.
right?
Right. Exactly.
You can funnel that tidal wave into maybe a few raindrops so you can digest it and process it. So that when you're in Adonis's situation of having that conversation with yourself, you'd be like, hey, I've worked on this. I've built those skills. I've put in those reps. I've shadow boxed
Right.
myself, and now I can access those abilities.
Well, it allows for that control, right? Because as long as
Yeah.
that thought or that feeling or that source of those feelings remains in the shadows, then it will continually surprise you every time it comes out. And like I said, if he doesn't face that in the ring, then it's going to lead some type of emotional surge where he's going to lose control every time, right? Because you won't see it coming. It's in the shadows, it's in the dark. And every time it's going to hit you and it's going to be like a new wave. And it's the same thing over and over again. That's why people run in cycles, right? And they're like, oh, I keep getting run. Yes, because at some point you have to face it. At some point you have to bring that shadow to light. And when you do, you can see it coming. And when you see it coming, you don't have to get hit by it every time. You can
No.
move.
It,
Like that's the
you
whole
can
point.
weave, you
You
can
can
roll, you can go,
yeah,
oh,
you know,
oh, yeah.
like that's the point. In any source, and that's why conflicts, contact sports or um sports in that essence really allow for that space. Like people think it's like people beating up on each other, and it's not, right? Like
No. It,
ideally,
oh my God. Sorry. Drop my phone. Oh God. Oh
no,
God.
oh,
Oh,
but
oh, hello. Hi. We're back. My bad.
right,
Sorry, I don't
but
know what
like
happened.
any
Yeah.
kind of combats, or like something like that. Like ideally, you want to be able to face those things so you don't lose control in the middle of the fight, in the middle of that combat or that conflict that you're physically having. All right. Um. So the idea is
Like
that
as
yeah, we'll go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
I'm just gonna repeat myself. Yeah, the idea is that
Oh, okay.
you don't lose control. The idea is that you're able to see it coming, so you're able to maintain that balance as you go forward.
And like I grew up in a background of martial arts and fighting and kung fu. Um, but the big thing that they talked about a lot was balance. Exactly that is we are not training people to become these stone cold killers who are beating people up left, right, and center. We're training these people to whole, right? Individuals who can process that anger and that frustration in the daily life and output it in productive manner.
Right.
Most of the time, training in a gym was there would be a handful of sparring days in the week, of course, but most of the time is you practicing on your own, just thinking to yourself with your thoughts of who I am, right? And that's kind of the side of martial arts that got stuck with me for so long. Is it's this inner battle consistently of who I am, who I need to be, who I was a few years ago, a few days ago, and how these three beings come together and further either myself or people around.
Right.
And I think that that openness to vulnerability and that openness to be able to have that discussion of self conflict is so powerful, right? And just as you were talking, it kind of reminded me of a story. This is going to get a little bit deep, to be honest, and a little
Okay.
bit
Yeah.
personal,
Go for
right? But thank you. But I remember the funeral at my grandpa's wedding. My grandpa played a massive role in my growing up, as well as my grandma, but pretty much raised by my grandpa and my parents. Um, but he was always this calm, zen, like copacetic super smooth, suave guy, right? And I'm at his funeral. Um, we had, I was kind of having a hard time processing it all, of course. I was fairly young. Um, but the big thing was like, my dad said, Jason, hold and be strong for others, right? And I had a hard time doing that. Of course, I did do it by the end, but someone who I kind of just like latched onto was my oldest brother and my middle brother as well, both of them actually. Um, but they cried, they had emotions, they got angry, they got sad, but they said, "Hey, have those emotions, but you need to be strong for those around you, but don't hide
Mhm.
hide those people can latch onto them." And that's exactly what I did. Was all my brothers hurting, but they used their own hurt to kind of bring people together, right? And talk about what my dad talk about who he was and how we could continue his legacy of peace, discussing your inner self and being a self to yourself,
Right.
the honest person to yourself. Right. So it's kind of that idea of like if you can access your emotions, if you can access that inner combat, inner conflict with self, it's not just healing for yourself, but it can be healing for others as well.
Right. 100%. Like you said, like you mentioned before, right? It's like being that structure, that house, that safe space for others to be able to also um contact or come in contact or just reach in and express their own emotions and their own feelings. Um to be able to understand that, that's how vulnerable we've talked about it several times before. That's how vulnerability works, right? Like somebody opens the door and says, "Well, I'm gonna do it." And then other people will like, "Well, maybe I'll try too." But they gotta see it first, right? And being able to do that and have that is strength because you're literally opening up this space and you're saying like I'm willing to hold that for others. And that's much stronger than not acknowledging that things are happening or that things are going on, right? Um,
And I think that's kind of the perfect segue there, honestly. So like the big penultimate discussion point is like conflict can be good, can be bad, but conflict is the test for your emotional vulnerability and your emotional readiness to become vulnerable.
yeah, and your IQ to your willingness to address yourself, right? Like it's all there. They're all lessons or available as lessons to be learned and about yourself, you know, and how to grow. Like people understand like what do I do next? What do I go like they're there. Like people say, "Oh, I feel very like you said, like do you not? Do things piss you off? Do things make you upset? Do things like they're all opportunities if you look at it. What's happening there? And they're all ways for us to grow as like that's how we grow as individuals. Like you said, that that vulnerability, addressing that internal conflict. And because it doesn't happen outside in, it happens inside out all the time. And anytime an outside conflict brings inner turmoil, it's because it was there already.
Right?
No,
So use that point, use that reference, use that moment to learn something new about yourself.
every time.
And
Yeah,
conflict only adds to who you are and allows you to figure out how you can grow a little bit more.
right. And like you said, if you're willing to be, as long as you're
Understand.
willing to be vulnerable and you address it, you have a chance.
I think that's wow. Whew,
You know,
what a way. Yeah.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. I don't think we can add more to that. That
No.
was saucy. You know the way that
Worked our way to the end. We got through it. Oh yeah, I think that's pretty good. I
we got through.
mean, yeah, that's us. It. I don't know if there's more to add to that one.
No, I think we're good on that one.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah. So, what are you up to this week? I was just joking. Anyways, okay, let's do some like podcast updatey things while we're here.
Okay.
Releasing videos on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Great, we're doing good. Please,
Oh.
I'll do this one so you don't have to say it this time.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Yes.
Uh, ring the bell for notifications. We're trying to grow.
Exactly.
But we're currently working on uploading on different platforms as well right now. So soon we'll have it on a few different platforms.
Yep.
But for now, please check us
In
out
which
continually on
YouTube.
lovely, lovely YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we get on those other platforms, please like and subscribe to those as well.
Subscribe,
Any way that
follow.
you like to consume
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
content, and go ahead and consume it. We'll just keep going, man. What else?
Going.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Share.
What else?
Share with people.
Share.
You know. Uh
Yep. Please send out the word.
yeah,
Start that conversation. You know,
exactly.
that's what we're here for, is to have this conversation and talk about what it means to have a discussion openly about vulnerability and masculinity, right? And the strength and vulnerability.
And for those that do
Yeah.
watch, I do want to say, like, if you do put a comment in there, ask a question, something,
Yep.
any type of information that you want to add, or you might even want something to be talked about, just if it might be a question, talking point, anything like that, feel free,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Please continue the conversation virtually, in person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Please on person. That's kind of
Chase.
creepy. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it, man. At the end of the day, chase
Yeah.
conflict, not in a bad way, but don't avoid it. And take it as an opportunity to learn for yourself and to grow, right? Uh, that's what conflict is. It's a natural point of life, and we grow on the other side of it. Um, any good friend you had a conflict with,
Yep.
so I think.
Exactly. You boil out the invulnerable moments and you kind of prioritize vulnerability in those deeper.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So
See y'all
we
next
need we need a
time.
tag we need the end tagline here. I got you. Okay.
No.
Vince Ponner. The locker room where Rocky and Adonis Creed are our god kings.
No. There
No,
no.
okay, sorry. Sorry.
No.
Okay. No.
No.
Okay.
They're
The
not.
locker room where conflict is
I mean, it's not a bad thing. I thought you were gonna say like conflict is resolved or something, or I don't know.
I kind of had a brain fart there, but it
Uh,
didn't go very far.
conflict is welcome.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Conflict is welcome.
It
Ah,
is.
well, it is
Nah,
welcome.
but I don't know if I like that
Yeah,
one.
to an extent. No, it's not that good.
Anyway.
Sorry. I mean, you tried really hard. Uh,
No, I didn't.
no.
All right.
Okay. Well, on another episode here, and we'll see you guys in the next.
Yeah.
But the locker room, let's keep talking.
Yeah. Let's do it.
That was pretty good, eh?
So happy as a rat. Oh.
Oh, yeah, one of these.